Hey, what's going on, guys? Back again with another video. So it's been a little bit, it hasn't been that long since I made a video, but here I am actually making more videos than I usually do. So I kind of want to keep the train rolling again, consistently trying to make new videos from time to time, but I don't know if I'll be continuously making videos, like every week or every 2 weeks or so, maybe once a month or maybe two, who knows. But I do want to keep making more videos, of course, try to be consistent with making videos more on Last of Us or Uncharted or anything Naughty Dog related. You guys know me. You guys know I love that type of stuff, so, and you guys must love it too, but I don't want to keep my word on it just in case if I just decide not to upload after for some time, but for now, let's get back on the topic. So anyways, I wanted to make a quick discussion talking about the recent news that has recently been brought up about what Naughty Dog is currently doing at the moment. So for a little bit of time now, news or updates related to Naughty Dog has been pretty dry and quiet. There hasn't been any sort of news besides of the recent updates on The Last of Us multiplayer delay and the announcements of a new single-player game a few weeks ago. It's understandable, considering that they're currently hard at work, working on two major projects at the same time, so we shouldn't be expecting to hear from them anytime soon. But, as of recently, new information has surfaced on what the studio is working on currently at the very moment. Now, take this with a grain of salt, as usual, since this is coming from outside sources that aren't in any way confirming that this is what they're working on, but let's be honest, it's pretty likely that this will most likely happen, what I'm about to talk about. An insider going by the name of Daniel Richman, a really well-known reliable scooper who scoops a lot of films and movie-related news, recently let out the news on his Patreon that there are details about a Last of Us Part 3 casting call. Naughty Dog is seeking to cast 5 individuals to play as characters known as Lucas, Mason, Val, Erza, and Graces. Apologies if I butchered those names. All 5 characters are surviving in the outskirts of a post-apocalyptic city inside of a Victorian house as their base. Now with that said, these are supposed alleged Last of Us Part 3 story details that have no correlation of mentions of Ellie at all in these details. I personally believe that with all this information being said, that this isn't The Last of Us Part 3. The details to me all align to be a part of The Last of Us Factions multiplayer game that Naughty Dog is currently developing. We know that The Last of Us Faction multiplayer will introduce a new set of new characters and a new complete setting set in the San Francisco area. And with these supposed casting calls for 5 survivors in a Victorian house, I have to believe that that is meant to be for The Last of Us Factions instead of The Last of Us Part 3. Now, that's not to say that The Last of Us Part 3 isn't off the table. While the casting calls for the 5 individuals, the casting calls could also be for side characters for The Last of Us Part 3. I don't believe Naughty Dog will end off The Last of Us franchise right after Part 2. Obviously, with The Last of Us being a huge franchise as it is now, there's no doubt that we will get a Last of Us Part 3 that will feature Ellie. There are many routes and turns Ellie as a character can go after the events of Last of Us Part 2. It just doesn't seem like that's that for her. I mean, she has been, but she's also literally the face of the series now. I think with these details out, it could either be one of the projects, but personally, I'm betting on it being The Last of Us Factions multiplayer. Another thing that I should also mention that has been brought up by another insider known as Viewer Anon. I've discussed about this guy's source in another video of mine, but he is also another reliable movie insider too. He mentioned about The Last of Us Part 3's details going in saying, "Look, its early story details are teased, and everything is potentially up in the air to be changed. I assure you, I've heard Ellie is at least important to The Last of Us Part 3 as she was in The Last of Us Part 2. He goes on to mention to someone below the comments saying, "All I can say is, I've been very vocal for quite a while that The Last of Us Part 3 is in development, and others are finally noticing. Major filming is happening this year." Now, with that said, he mentioned major filming is happening this year, which if you know what major film means in video game industry term, he means motion capture. If that is the case, Naughty Dog is on track to begin motion capture sometime this year with either project. We know they'll be doing motion capture for both The Last of Us Factions multiplayer game and their next single player game. Personally, I believe that they're doing motion capturing for both projects at the same time. With recent reports reporting that Naughty Dog is overhauling Factions after the studio, Bungie, took a look into the game's service model for Factions, and also setting developers aside from Factions to go work on the new single player title, they are likely doing both at the same time. Motion capturing for both projects would make the most sense. But I can only imagine now that Naughty Dog's probably most likely shifted their gears towards working on their next single player game over Factions. I do think that they are working on The Last of Us Part 3 as their next single player title. A new IP is still up in the air, that could likely be the also other thing that they're working on as well. But when it comes to The Last of Us Part 3, it won't be for a long while till we see that. I still think The Last of Us Factions multiplayer will arrive sooner than The Last of Us Part 3. Nevertheless, it's always intriguing to know where the studio may be at the moment. I know whatever they plan on delivering to us first will be worth the wait. Alrighty guys, that is it for this video. Would love to know any of your thoughts on Naughty Dog's next title. Be sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this discussion, and for more Naughty Dog related news, be sure to hit the bell notification whenever I try to upload a video every once in a while. Follow the social media for updates on news on Twitter, Twitch, etc. But until then, I'll see you guys next time.